you have to ask, what do you want? What are you trying to achieve with B2B? That's number one. Go into it and say, what am I trying to achieve with B2B? If it's just sales, full stop, boop, it might not be the best fit. If businesses don't have scalable processes in place, B2B is just going to expose that. But if you do have good processes in place, B2B is going to accelerate you down that path. You can make that happen very, very quickly. It's called a blended store. And Shopify just made that incredibly easy. You don't even need a bunch of separate apps. So you guys, saving marriages is what Cleverific is doing right there.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Simply Clever podcast. My name is Josh Stratton. I am the head of growth and merchant strategy here at Cleverific. Today, I am joined by Benjamin Thornburg from Helium, and we're very excited to talk to you about B2B on Shopify. Benjamin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Josh, appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So to kick things off, today we're going to be talking about B2B on Shopify, and it really can be messier than anybody wants to admit. So we're going to be talking about ways that we can make it more approachable and less messy for merchants who want to get started or want to further their journey, their B2B journey on Shopify. I wanted to ask, when somebody like a merchant or a brand is starting their journey into B2B, or maybe they're taking that big next step to start taking B2B a lot more seriously, what are the questions that they should be asking themselves as they step into that journey?
Yeah, that is a great question. The tendency and proclivity for most of us is you see something new, you hop on that, and then you ask the big questions later. And asking big questions up front is so important. I can't stress that enough. It's so important. We've talked about this on Helium's Hot Air Show before, and it's worth restating that if you haven't asked the classic Notebook, Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams, like, what do you want? It's not that simple. Like, what do you want? You have to ask, what do you want? What are you trying to achieve with B2B? That's number one. Go into it and say, what am I trying to achieve with B2B? If it's just sales, full stop, boop, it might not be the best fit. Are there other avenues you haven't explored? Should you be working on advertisement in different areas or beefing up your product or your brand voice? There's a lot of other things that need to happen because B2B, it's a big step. Isaac Bosch, who's the CEO at Ecom 360, last week he posted on LinkedIn, and his post was really great because he says that if businesses don't have scalable processes in place, B2B is just going to expose that. But if you do have good processes in place, B2B is going to accelerate you down that path. So asking yourself, what do you want? And really sitting down and saying, are we going to benefit from a bunch of more sales at slightly less margin of profit? Or if that's going to shipwreck us? It's important.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. You got to know why you're doing it and what you want to get out of it.
Absolutely.
And, it's a shifting landscape, especially on the Shopify side, because Shopify just opened B2B features Beyond Plus. So does that actually change the game for most brands, or is it more complicated than the headlines suggest?
Yeah. Yes. Both are very much true. B2B is more complicated intrinsically. A lot of that has to do with wrapping your head rather around companies versus just regular customers. And then the other one are payment terms. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. So on one side, yes, it is much more complicated. And on the other side, I think what Shopify did, and they continue to do this is their whole raison d'etre, their purpose of existence is lowering the bar of entry. What they did was they lowered the bar of entry. Suddenly you don't have to spend money on a Shopify Plus plan every single month to get these B2B features. You can really essentially toe in the deep end. Hey, I want to try this. Again, with the caveat of, what do you want? And is B2B just going to expose your lack of organization, your lack of is it going to expose your supply chain or your inability to process payments or your lack of organization? Is it going to do that, or is it going to just be a simple step forward for your company? That's that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna have a lot of merchants kind of towing the deep end in those waters and seeing if B2B can work for them. And it is easy. And I wanna stress it is easy. I'm working on a video right now, and you can do both. It's the combined store for both B2B and D2C. You can do that. You can make that happen very, very quickly. It's called a blended store, and Shopify just made that incredibly easy. You don't even need a bunch of separate apps. If you want it to flow correctly, you'll probably need a few apps to make things better, to make life easier, but you don't need that Shopify Plus, all of those features to do this anymore, to run B2B and D2C, that blended store anymore. And that is just crazy talk, because before, when you're setting up a business plan, 10 years ago in ecom, you had to decide and you had to stay in that lane or build two separate websites or do all this stuff. Shopify just threw that out the window with this latest release. It's crazy.
Yeah, so interesting. And, just lowering that barrier to entry and narrowing the focus down to like one pane of glass, if you will, as much as possible is a really powerful way for brands to do multiple things at once, as opposed to having to track two entirely separate systems and two entirely separate businesses, really. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So walk me through what a wholesale application actually looks like for a brand doing it right. What are they collecting? What are they approving on? What are some typical breakage points that you've seen working with merchants on Earth?
That is a great question. So we've worked with Shopify merchants in the B2B space with our flagship app, Customer Fields, for a long time. And the reason Customer Fields was so powerful is it allowed you to collect and add a custom field to a registration form and collect data. So a custom field, so instead of just a regular name, email, address, you can plop in a custom field and collect specific information. In a lot of B2B cases, what you're going to need is a proof of tax exemption. So you have this form that says I'm tax exempt, and you have to prove that. And so what we would do with customer fields is we would put that information on the customer profile itself. And now with Onboard B2B, we can do that with companies. We can create these companies and say, hey, here's their proof that they are tax exempt, and they can upload their file. We have it for our records, for our tax records. They have it for theirs. Everything's on the level. We're proving that this is a B2B merchant and it is a company. We're treating them as companies, which is an important distinction. And that trips me up when I'm going back and forth talking really fast. Brett Shelley's always like, no, customer, company. These are different. So it's really tricky, especially if you've just started out. That's something that you're gonna have to really drill in the old brain there to notice the distinctions. So the registration, you're gonna fill out a company application form, and you're gonna need additional information. The payable is really interesting. The net terms payable, right? Like, are they gonna pay, was it net 15 or net 30? When are you receiving the payment from this company? Way different than, I am buying a pickleball paddle. I shall click the button, I get the money, it's done. So that's another thing that merchants are going to have to navigate, is when do I want these people to pay, and when do those companies typically pay? Because sometimes, a lot of times in B2B, you've got an entire accounts department and billing department, and so they pay out at a certain time each month from their company, so you have to adjust to that. And so that's another one of those things that you have to, the agreeing to payment terms is something that's way different than just a regular customer, a D2C. You're just purchasing something online. So those are a couple ones. Let's see. Location admins are really interesting. that's a whole separate thing because if you have stores with multiple locations, let's say regional, right? You have like maybe an East Coast region, you have a West Coast region. You've got these managers over there and they want to assign the different permissions, purchasing permissions on your store for their company. That's something that's completely foreign to a regular merchant. Our app, Onboard B2B, allows those managers in those regions to actually add and approve and do special permissions for their own employees in those positions. So the merchant doesn't have to do that. The Shopify merchant doesn't have to sit there and say, "Oh my gosh, this company for whatever reason, God forbid, has high turnover, and every 6 months it's like I'm adding this new person." No, no, no. They do that over there. That's one of those features that we've tried to bake into Onboard because we're really trying to hear from our B2B merchants and say what things would make your life better, streamline the process, and just hit the nail on the head as far as ease goes. So succinctly put, there's a lot going on behind the scenes in B2B on the payment front and then also on who's purchasing and when they can purchase as far as permissions go. So the payment and permissions side of things is a little bit different than a regular D2C business.
That makes perfect sense. I also really like the parallel there between what Onboard B2B is doing and what Cleverific is doing at its core, which is self-serve, giving for end customers or end, B2B partners the ability to help themselves, right? So that's really that's so powerful and very underestimated, I think, because it's great for everybody. Everybody wins when you can take care of your own problems.
Absolutely. And the other thing is there are less errors. Or if there are errors, the onus isn't on the Shopify merchant, it's on the other side. It's like, oh, you typed in that email incorrectly. Yeah, I don't know their first name. There are 9 different ways to spell Megan. I didn't know, but that's your employee. You know that. You can do that faster than I can. So self-serve has a defensive side of it as well that protects Shopify merchants from losing those sales as well. I love that.
Yeah, so cool. So when we were chatting before the podcast, you mentioned to me that you were either built or are building a guide specifically for B2B without Shopify Plus. So tell me more about that. And it sounds like it's probably still fresh in your mind. I'd love to hear just kind of a high level, 10,000-foot view, if you will, of that guide that you made.
Absolutely. So, as part of my role as a content creator at Helium, I'm always trying to search things that are highly applicable for Shopify merchants and answer questions well, kind of slant plugging our products, right? That's how I get paid. That's how I eat. This one is really, really special and really hard. This one is eating my lunch because there are so many different ways to do B2B on Shopify. If you go to the community forum right now and say, "Hey, how do I set this up for my site?" You're going to have, first off, you're going to have a ton of app developers plug their apps. And as you start to figure out, like, try to plug these apps into your store, you're going to find overlap. You're going to find things that don't work specifically for your use case. And so my whole goal in that, as I was reading through these, I was like, I just want a guide that takes a merchant start to finish with how to take their existing Shopify store, their D2C Shopify store, and make a blended store with both D2C and B2B and make it as easy as possible. Obviously, I'm going to plug Onboard B2B because I believe like we created this to make life easier for our merchants. So I'm going to put that in there, but we're going through everything. We're going to enabling Shopify markets, setting up companies. We're going to creating B2B catalogs. We're configuring storefront. We're even kind of going in and touching and saying, hey, if you're not using Shopify Flow to automate certain tasks that you're doing again and again and again, you need to because Shopify Flow natively has B2B objects that you can plug B2B tasks into to automate them, to send emails, to reorder things, to do all these different things. So we're trying to pull that all together in this big giant and easy and quick and light video that is going to add a lot of value to merchants. I think it's our number 3 last I checked. We did this a couple years ago, and it took me the better part of a month, and so hopefully it won't take me that long. But it's our third most viewed video on our YouTube channel. And it's because merchants really need it, and so I want to give them an updated version of that.
Cool. That's so awesome. And I love that you're like finding those needs that you're recognizing within the community and within your customer base, and you're providing that for them, right? That, you know, kind of similar to consolidating everything down to one pane of glass to make it easier to manage multiple businesses or multiple channels in one platform. Consolidating all that information down to one video is going to be super super helpful. So awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing that one myself. So, I was thinking about it and I was curious because, one thing that we found on our side at Cleverific is we've found that our customers will use our technology in really surprising ways, or there'll be some instances where we're kind of a little bit surprised or maybe like wilded out, if you will, by some of the data that we see in the way that customers use our app. And that's actually interestingly how we segue into developing the post-purchase revenue side of the business that we're building out now, which we're calling PRO. So I'm just curious, what's the most creative or unexpected way you've seen a merchant use customer fields for B2B? Or maybe just something in general that you've heard about the way that customers are using a Helium app that really surprised you?
Oh, that's a great question. I love that. There are a couple examples that come to mind. There are a lot of skincare merchants use customer fields, and then we also have a lot of pet owners. I'll start with skincare. Really, really interesting. Some developers have plugged in our API to gain custom information and have used customer fields to map out an entire skincare routine questionnaire that new customers fill out when they land on this site. And I mean everything, skin color, like skin type, your hair color, your hair type. It's, is this oily hair? Is this thin hair? And they're doing all of that using customer fields in the API and then putting it over into the customer profile, which is crazy. Like we never thought that was obviously custom information, but an entire multi-step questionnaire to get to know the customers better was surprising. The other one is there's a couple of dog food manufacturers, very, very similar. What size of dog, what type of hair, how do they sleep, all this stuff. They're gaining all of all this information, almost like a vet would ask, right?
Mm.
To suggest food and the frequency of the food, and then they're going in and updating the customer pro. It's porting over to the customer profile automatically, and then as the relationship goes on, this monthly subscription, they can go in and edit that as they will. And those are really surprising. I guarantee Nick wasn't sitting at his desk like, yeah, skincare and pet food. Like, I guarantee he's just on it being like, "No, we need to give merchants the ability to ask custom questions and add custom fields to a registration form." And from that, the spinoff has just been amazing. You're absolutely right. The creativity of merchants, of agencies, of these people building, developers in the space is unbelievable, and I love it. It makes me really happy.
That's so, so cool. We have some, you mentioned skincare and dog food. We have a number of skincare, hair care, and dog food merchants using Cleverific as well. And they'll use it in similar ways. And it's typically to make edits to complicated orders that involve that kind of information that you described. So customizations around hair type, for example, that's something that popped out at me, or skin type, or the dog food angle is something that comes up quite a bit for us as well, because that's something that's exploded. I feel like it really exploded during the pandemic, where people were looking for like farm fresh or just handmade, like high quality food for their pets, usually dogs. And so there was kind of an explosion in demand there. and it's always interesting to kind of see the businesses that the business needs that arise out of those kinds of use cases, especially when you're working with a platform that can be a little bit more limited for customizations, like Shopify.
Right.
But that's
Like
where
limited on purpose. Anytime we encounter a limit on the development side, it's like, oh, security. There's usually a trail of, and sometimes it's like, why can't you do this? But a lot of times it's, oh, security. I love the cleverific post checkout order editing because I've I love it when sites have that because so many times I'll order something, and this is just a total plug for what you guys do, but I'll order something and then I'll talk to my wife and it'll come up like, "Well, did you order one for our son?" Or, "Oh, I would like one of those." Or, "Did you get the one in blue? I thought we talked about that." And for me, who's in one ear and out the next, I can go back in and edit that real quick and be like, "Of course I ordered the blue. Why would I order the red one?" Like I would never, not in a million years, have ordered the red one ever. So I really, you guys saving marriages is what Cleverific is doing right there.
love to hear that. Yeah, we think that flexibility is user right, to customer right. So we like to extend that flexibility as much as we can. Really awesome to hear, man. But in true reciprocal fashion, because I was on the Hot Air show and you asked me a closer question, which I thought was
No.
fun, I'm going to ask you the exact same question that you asked me.
Okay, okay,
So
you asked the question. You're leading this. Go for it.
here's the question. So, if you were able to teleport to anywhere, or maybe more importantly, any time in the world, where would you go and why?
Shoot. That's a good question.
It's tough.
So my deal is, okay, can I ask a clarifying question?
Oh yeah, of course.
Can I speak whatever language to the place and time I go to?
I don't see any reason why not.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so that's you just gave me a superpower. So I would go back selfishly, I would want to go back to the early 1990s and just give myself a little cheat of what to invest in. Oh, that
There you
would
go.
be very tough. But my real answer, the one that's super burning, is I would have liked to see kind of the truth and crazy chaos of like ancient Jerusalem at the time of Jesus type things. That would be amazing to me, and to be able to experience some of that. Obviously, looking the way I do, a big 6 foot, half Hispanic guy would probably raise some eyebrows when the average height was like 5'3" or 4". All that aside, it would be very educational, and I think you could come back with a lot of like, well, actually, and I think that's what really stirs my heart of just this. There's a lot of people that are doing the well, actually, and then you could be like, well, I was there. So yeah, that would make
It's
me very happy.
it's such a fun and interesting question too, because we talk about history and we have very, very limited ability to actually comprehend what happened. We have records that are sometimes incomplete or just sparse or just really, really old, been translated a number of times. So yeah, to be able to be there yourself and kind of see it would be really, really, really interesting. Yeah, good answer. I like it. You can get to the bottom of some questions. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining, Benjamin. This has been so much fun. So thank you for listening as well. We covered the questions that you should be asking yourself and the way that you should be thinking about B2B as you start that journey on Shopify. And we're really excited to bring this to you. And Benjamin, let me know when you finish that new guide that you're working on, the update. And
You'll be the first to know. I will tag you. I will send it to you. I would love to.
absolutely, we'll include it in the description of the video as well for easy reference if people find it in the future.
Perfect. Thanks, Josh. I really appreciate it. It was a blast.
Absolutely. Thank you, Benjamin. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you.